Hey Van Heis, welcome back to another week of art. This week we're getting into part 2 of our Proportionate Pop Portrait project. Now remember, last week we were doing just pencil sketching and we were focusing on those proportions, the size of the different parts of our face and the distances between them. We wanted it to look as realistic as we could, and that's why we were focusing so much on those proportions. This week we're going to make our portraits pop. And for inspiration, we're looking at the artwork of Roy Lichtenstein. Lichtenstein was an artist who became pretty famous in the 1960s and 70s for his large-scale comic book-looking artwork. He was a pop artist, which is short for pop culture artist, or an artist whose work reflects what's popular in culture around those times. And in the 1960s, something that was really popular amongst both kids and teens and adults were comics. And he had this interesting idea to take teeny tiny little comics that he saw in newspapers or maybe in magazines, and he would actually replicate them, but he would increase the scale. He would make them way bigger and he would hand paint them. And he used this really interesting way of adding color to certain areas of his artworks called Benday Dots. And this is something that's really common across all of his artwork. You almost always see these dots that are filling in these large areas of color. So, thinking about Benday Dots as a form of coloration and some of these really striking colors and striking shapes that we see in Roy Lichtenstein's artwork, let's get to work on making our proportionate portraits pop. Alright, so for part 2 of our portrait project, we're going to need a few more tools. Your portrait from last time, that same pencil with an eraser. The eraser is still key. We're going to need a Sharpie or a black marker, whichever one you have. Then we're going to need some other coloring tools. I grabbed some markers, I've got some crayons here, I've got some colored pencils nearby. This could also be something that you use paint on if you happen to have some watercolor paint. The choice is really yours, what you use for color, but we're gonna all try to use the same method. So, first thing I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna start Sharpieing over my lines from last time. I might make a few adjustments, and then I'm gonna go ahead and erase some of those measuring lines, the ones that I hadn't gotten from last time. So, make sure when you're using Sharpie that you have something to put below your paper so it's not bleeding through. I've got a folder here, so I'm just going to put it right on top of here. I don't really mind if I get a little Sharpie on the folder. Here I go. Alright, so I've got my face all Sharpied out. I've erased most of my lines. It's time to get into color, and I'm actually going to start with the face of my portrait. Now, we looked at the work of Roy Lichtenstein and how he would use those Benday dots to add areas of color. Just like many of his characters, I'm going to start with a red marker and make some red dots on my face. I might do some kind of undertone as well after I add my dots. But if you notice something about Lichtenstein's dots, they weren't just random. He didn't just put dots wherever he felt like it. They actually followed some kind of system. They were sort of measured out, and every dot was kind of the same space away from each other. So if you have a ruler with you, this can be a good tool for measuring out those dots. Or you could also, just like last time, I just had a little piece of cardboard. You could use this too to help you measure out these dots. But I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to flip my ruler over to the centimeter side. I want each of my dots to be about 1 centimeter away from each other. And I'm going to have my dots be, about the size of like a pea, maybe the size of those pupils in my eyes. So I'm going to move up to the highest point of my character's head, or face, I should say. I'm not doing the hair yet. I'm just going to start making some dots. And because there's not a lot of space to work with here, I'm just going to add maybe 1 dot here. All right, it already looks like I'm starting to get some chicken pox, but that's okay. We're going to keep on going. So I'm going to move my ruler down and shift it a little bit. So I still want my next row of dots to be about 1 centimeter apart, but notice how I'm going to put a dot here and 1 dot here. So this one is kind of right between those two. I'm gonna try to keep that same pattern going. All right, you can see this is looking pretty interesting so far. It's definitely making my portrait pop a little bit more. I went right over the eyelids with the dots, but I saved the lips. I'm gonna do the lips in a different color. I'm gonna keep on going on the neck. All right, so I finished up my first area of those red dots, and you may have noticed that I started off using the ruler, and then I realized it's kind of easier just to make rows and try to remember to offset each row so it's a little different than the next, or than the last. That helped me a little bit. So now that I've done so many dots, I'm gonna go in and fill in some of my areas with a more solid color. So, and remember, I used red dots to represent the skin on my face and my lips and my nose. If you want to try out a different color, by all means go for it. If you want to make yours surrealist and not true to the color of your skin or not true to the color of any person, that's okay. You could do this with purple dots. You could do it with green dots. That is your choice. I'm trying to keep mine accurate to Lichtenstein's artwork, and I'm going to use red dots. So the next I'm going to do my eyes, and I think I'm going to try to make my eyes true to my real eye color. So I'm gonna try to find I'm gonna find some brown because I've got brown eyes. So here we go. I found a brown crayon, so I'm gonna start filling in those areas. And now for my hair. Now, oftentimes in like comic books, you'll see that people with dark hair or things that are represented as black, like I've got pretty black hair, but I'm gonna include some areas of blue in my hair too. That's sort of a trick that you'll see in comics sometimes. So I'm gonna make maybe some areas. My hair is going to be all solid color, but I'm going to make some areas that I'm going to include as blue. So maybe I'll make like a little shape here. That's going to be blue. And then I'm going to make a shape here. That'll be blue too. I'll do one over here as well. It's kind of like showing areas of shininess in the hair. But otherwise, I'm going to color my hair in all black. So here I go, nice and dark. All right, next I think I'm gonna use a crayon and make a sort of a solid color for my lips. So I think I'm gonna do kind of like a deep red. This is a brick red. We'll see how this works for my lips. All right, so for the rest of the image, I want you to try your best to add some things in the background. Maybe you wanna add something that like action-packed that's happening. There could be sort of like explosions in the background, or maybe just big areas of color. I might try to do some Benday Dots on my shirt as well. So at this point, just have fun with it. Think about, primary colors, how to make the background feel like it's popping out. Think about words. Maybe you want to include some text. Lichtenstein was really well known for including speech bubbles or thought bubbles. I might include one of those as well. So I'm going to keep on working on this and we'll see what comes up. And there it is, my completed Proportionate pop portrait project. I really like how those Benday dots turned out. Beneath the skin dots, I decided to do an undertone, and I decided to just keep the undertone white here beneath my shirt. But you can see I added some sort of poppy, zazzy shapes to the background. I wanted the colors to be really warm to contrast the cool colors in my hair and my shirt. And I included a little speech bubble right here that if you look closely, it says Art Rules. I hope you all enjoy this project. I can't wait to see how your portraits turn out. Be sure to have fun with it and just get creative. And if you want to try out some other types of styles or include other things in your background, absolutely go for it. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.